Hello and welcome everyone to our YouTube exclusive stuff.
Yeah, we still haven't come up with a full name for it yet.
Yeah, this is our more direct, single topic way of doing things. A little bit faster, hopefully a little bit more amusing. We're giving it a shot.
Yeah, we're trying to stay on top of the news as it comes out. That's the whole point of switching this over, along with other things that we touched on in our podcast.
Yes, that no longer exists. All right, so we're going to talk about Deadpool 2 test screenings. Fox has held at least one test screening for Deadpool 2 over the weekend, and the response were reportedly not very good, with anonymous source calling it a big mess. Where have I heard that before? It's important to note that much of this information comes from an anonymous source, and this is all very much a rumor at this point. Plus, viewers at the test screenings are all required to sign non-disclosure agreements, which prohibits them from talking about the early cut of the movie that they saw. That being said, there could be some potential spoilers. Deadpool 2 ahead, so read at your own risk. Or listen at your own risk in this case.
Yes.
Again, yeah, there is some kind of, there's not really, to me, it's not that big of a spoiler, but if you just don't want to know anything about this movie, spoiler alert. So the article continues on, blogger Jeremy Conrad took to Twitter, which is the guy that's been breaking a lot of different things lately. He's the guy that pretty much listed the whole thing about Aquaman test screenings going. It's kind of weird that Aquaman had a test screening and Deadpool had a test screening, but yeah, they're like 8 months apart.
Yeah, no shit.
Or a little bit closer than that, but 6 months apart. But hey, test screenings. Anyway, so blogger Jeremy Conrad took to Twitter over the weekend to announce that someone close to him, meaning his hand, saw a test screening for Deadpool 2 and revealed that the initial reaction was not what he expected to hear. He said, Fox screened Deadpool 2 tonight, not Dark Phoenix again, and yikes, which I didn't know they were testing Dark Phoenix. I'm pretty sure they're still shooting that movie.
Yeah, that confused the shit out of me, but I don't know. I'm confused by that.
Because they just released set photos. I'm like, what? Wait. So what are they showing on Dark Phoenix? Anyway, maybe it's an inside joke. We don't get it. We're not inside anything. The first reaction wasn't what I expected to hear. Conrad didn't stop there, and he went into a little bit more detail after some people asked what the problems were. Again, spoiler alert, Conrad says it's about 30 minutes longer than the first movie, and the plot is lacking, and that they waste the Vanessa character. Vanessa was the love interest in the first one, if you need to remember. She was the one that had the great tits that we got to see. So that is a tragedy if they waste her tits at all, because I would love to see those again.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jeremy Conrad was forced to take down his tweet by Fox after they threatened legal action. However, Twitter user Mike Kalowski, I believe it is, maybe the guy from Monsters, Inc.
Kilanowski. Mike Wazowski.
Also said that he has heard similar fears after someone called it an Alien 3 blunder. In regard to the story, Kilanowski had this to say, I've heard it's testing really poorly. Wow, way to go, man. They are stunned with what their screening audiences are saying. I know people don't say much about it, but you cannot underestimate Ted Miller's contribution to getting Deadpool made. He was half the equation. I'm just curious who the other half was. Was it Ryan Reynolds and the writers, or are they only like a quarter?
Yeah, pretty much.
What about the other producers on there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not very good at math, and clearly neither is Mike, but I digress.
Anyway, so last little part here. The information has come from an anonymous source, so you can take what you want out of it. I will then. Watch me, motherfucker. Ted Miller's absence.
As soon as you started saying take, I was waiting for take with a grain of salt. I thought for sure.
No, they're doing a good job. I think I might have skipped it, though. They did use it at least once in here. But I think they've done fairly good avoiding that. Tim Miller's absence was a red flag from the beginning, but the footage that has been teased to public for Deadpool 2 has been proven pretty epic so far. Test screenings are used to make a movie better. No. Wrong! We still have a pretty long wait before the final cut needs to be delivered. In the meantime, you can check out the social media thoughts below. And this is Robert Meyer Brunette says, I have, from my perspective, with what I've heard, they've made a huge Alien 3 blunder with the story, but I haven't seen it. Love the first film. Well, way to cover your ass there.
Yeah, of course. It's, again, just from a source, so take this with a grain of salt.
Exactly. Insider, my main man, my cousin of a second removed.
Exactly. His tweet is kind of contradictory in itself because it says, from my perspective, with what I've heard.
Yeah.
So, like, what? I don't know. He's just jumping to conclusions like the normal comic book movie stuff.
I have one last little thing here I just want to try to chuck into this whole article because they talk about test screenings are made to make a movie better. Well, I just wanted to bring up an article from CBR.com talking about the Justice League test screening. According to the Wall Street Journal, notes recent test screenings of the received audience scores are close to what Wonder Woman prior to its release. That reception seemingly stems from successful blending of the strengths of directors Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, the latter of whom stepped in to oversee the production of Snyder's blah blah blah, wake of daughter's death, yada yada yada. The journal also notes that the final edit was the result of some trial and error. No shit. and that early cuts didn't achieve that goal. That's fairly typical, and now Justice League seems on its way to open domestically at $100 million, blah, 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 and yada, yada. Anyway, so it was pretty positive, saying it was a great blend between Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder, and that's what the initial screenings for it, and I just thought that was funny. Wonder Woman quality test screening results. Yeah. So obviously test screenings are fucking good.
Oh, yeah.
So Shane has a couple articles here to, Shane has a couple articles here to kind of something a little extra that maybe some people have overlooked.
The first one comes from Geek Tyrant, and it goes over some of the stuff that Matt had just discussed and brought out from MovieWeb. But then there's an additional part that they talk about, and it says that reshoots were confirmed by Josh Brolin in an interview with EW, saying, "I'm up here right now in snowy Vancouver doing reshoots for Deadpool. Given that it's a satire of all superhero movies, especially Marvel movies, how can you not?" Just right off the bat, this makes me wonder if maybe they're going to incorporate some sort of Black Panther satire. I'm not too sure. That right there doesn't completely confirm that we're doing reshoots. You know, Deadpool's kind of getting the Justice League treatment of like, oh gosh, reshoots, the movies in you know, it's unwatchable and they have to do all these reshoots and spend all this money. When in this, Josh Brolin is just kind of saying like, well, we have to do reshoots to add more material. That's kind of how I interpreted it a little bit.
But apparently the movie is 30 minutes longer with very little plot. So I don't know how much more they were going to add, but
yeah, maybe remove something else. Not too sure. All right, so then the other article, this one comes from comicbookmovie.com, and it says Deadpool is reportedly testing just fine, but there may be something in the sequel which upsets fans. And then it continues. This actually came out today, was written by Josh Wilding, and the first paragraph says, those reports about Deadpool 2 scoring disastrously low at test screenings were clearly premature because more reliable sources have chimed in, but warned that some fans could walk away from the sequel angry. Earlier today, we heard that the first test screening for Deadpool 2 had been something of a disaster and significant reshoots were set to take place as a result. Well, it's now been made clear that the information was inaccurate and the source was far from reliable, while a number of other reporters and outlets have also weighed in to clear things up. As a result, fans can seemingly stop worrying. Well, mostly. According to Marvel Studio News, they've heard from multiple accounts from people who have attended a Deadpool 2 screening who loved what they saw, while Collider EIC Steve Weintraub points out that the scores from these screenings are high and each managed to do over 90. So Steven Weintraub, this is his tweet. He says, have seen a completely untrue report of Deadpool 2 testing poorly. From what I've heard, the first two test screenings both scored over 90, with the second one scoring close to the top mark. I've also spoken to people that saw it. Everyone said it's excellent. Fans will love. Marvel Studio News, meanwhile, notes that the only explanation that they can come up with for why some fans in attendance have slated Deadpool 2 is because they've heard that something in the movie which sounded rather brilliant may bother some fans. They don't divulge more details because it would be considered a big spoiler, but it's similar to Iron Man 3 Mandarin twist in terms of how controversial it could end up being.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that would be brutal. So those reports were clearly premature, but this possible twist is sure to worry some fans. Are you guys still excited for Deadpool 2 despite the conflicting reports? Let us know in the usual place. So then this article also includes some tweets. This one's from Sam. I'm not even going to try to read his Twitter handle. Regarding the reshoots, he says those were scheduled reshoots that happened back in February. Jeremy Conrad took an EW article that happened weeks ago with Brolin and tried to spin it into reshoots happening now. Then Dr. Ross Geller chimes in and says, bingo, hasn't snowed in weeks in Vancouver, and Brolin mentioned shooting in snowy Vancouver. Then Sam replies, and it tells you everything you need to know about Jeremy Conrad, because even after people corrected him on it, he refused to tweet out saying he misspoke or misunderstood. Interesting that he was the only one who originally said the movie was terrible too. Wow, does that sound familiar or what? People who jump to conclusions and then don't retract their statement afterwards.
Just to get out there and be sourced and be channeled. And that way he got a bunch of fucking shit for him being quoted, and you can know they ran with it. It's clear. I mean, whatever. Deadpool 2 is going to be good. I think that Mandarin thing is a little worrisome. Yeah. But, I mean, it's going to be good overall. It's a satire movie. It's not supposed to be serious, so I don't know how much of a Mandarin-type twist could really affect my personal take on it, because it's already a joke movie, so that would actually make sense in a movie, unlike Iron Man 3, where it's fucking stupid. And anyway, that's for another day. That's coming up.
Yes. Very, very soon.
So I don't really see it being that big of a deal in this type of movie. So again, don't get your panties in a twist. If you were looking forward to Deadpool 2 and this somehow scared you off of it or any manner, made you think twice about it, think again. You know, we got conflicting sources per usual, but once again, more than likely that one is not going to be pushed out as much compared to the one where Deadpool 2 is a mess, because that's always going to be the one that's going to be pushed out there. That's the one you'll find first if you type in Deadpool 2 test screening.
Yeah,
you'll find that first before you find that article.
Yeah,
because that's how this shit works, unfortunately. But that's why we're here, to bring you the news.
Exactly, the all-important news from different sources.
For different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
All right, so that's going to conclude this little YouTube exclusive video. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks Podcast and hit the notification bell. You know, all these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.